Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, joined, of course, by the Trashman for the Week 11 Waiver Wire edition of the podcast. If you're enjoying these podcasts, if you like this and the Tradecast and the Bet the Algo podcast that we have coming out on Wednesdays now with Can't Miss Mitch and the crew, please make sure and give this a like if you're watching on YouTube, but man, more importantly, what they keep asking us to do is to just ask you guys, please, in Apple Podcasts, if you could just please leave a rating and a review in Apple Podcasts. We see those coming in, and we thank you guys. We can't thank you enough, but certainly, man, we get a lot. Trashman, would you believe that we get a lot more listeners than we do get reviews on Apple Podcasts? It's like, oh, man,
put it past him.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, we're not asking you for money. We're not asking you for anything except just if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, if you could just please leave a review.
Actually, if you do win a lot of money in fantasy, feel free to kick some back. You know.
Trashman, I thought you were giving away money in the free squares contest.
Where do you think I'm getting it from?
Okay. Dude, it's a on it. What do you think, man? I think it's kind of a big week on waivers. I think it's a week where
you can make some big moves. There's a lot of value to be had.
And I also just think that there's the Cooper Kupp injury, which probably for us and, at least in the RosterWatch Dynasty land, was just that's not going to be good. I mean, if he's on IR, he's going to miss the next 4 weeks, and dude, he got surgery. He's getting surgery on a high ankle.
Fortunately and unfortunately, I don't have him in any leagues.
Well, right, because you don't use RosterWatch products whenever you're drafting.
Well, no, there was no. If you're drafting the first, I got.
This is mainly a dynasty thing where we've had him since.
I got Taylor in too many leagues.
Well, this is mainly a dynasty thing where we've had him for ever since he was a rookie, and it sucks for that. But here's the thing: there's some deep redraft waiver plays that we're going to talk about this week, but also some that are very clear right at the top. I'm going to get the matchup tool pulled up. I'm going to get snap counts, targets, and touches pulled up, and I'm going to get the waiver wire.
I like how I look like a disembodied head in the video.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah, definitely. ML in the chat saying he doesn't see any reason why the Rams would play Kupp when he comes back. I mean, what are the Rams, Trash? Are they 3-6?
Yeah, but then again, so are somebody else in the NFC West is 3-6 as well.
What are
they were at least up to this past weekend. I feel like they could. They're not out of it yet.
Yeah,
and as long as they're not out of it, the reigning Super Bowl champs are not going to throw in the towel.
By the time he comes back, they will be out of it.
Maybe
if you have a banged up staff, if this is going to be John Wolford throwing to Ben Skoranek and Van Jefferson, who all of a sudden is no good, and
Stafford, it was a concussion, right?
Yeah. But who knows? It's like, who knows? It's like ML's saying they could sit Stafford too. It's just, I don't know, man. And so if we look at the
Stafford has played through everything. He's known.
They're at the dead bottom. They're the dead, dude. How on earth are the Rams going to catch the Seahawks, who are 6-4? They are 3-6. They're at the bottom of this league.
They're 2 games behind?
No, they're 3 games. They're 3 games behind the Seahawks. They're 2 games behind the 40. Dude, it's the 49ers. So
the first place team is 6-4.
What? Yes.
That's about as good odds you're going to get in a division.
It's basically
except for maybe the NFC South. That might be.
It's basically like saying that you think the Pittsburgh Steelers can hang around to stick around in the AFC North, where they're 3-6 and the division leaders, the Ravens, are 6-3. It's about like saying you think that the Jacksonville Jaguars can hang around at 3-7 and get ahead of the division leaders, who are the Tennessee Titans, who are 6-3. It's about
those are different records. 3-7 is a lot different than 3-6. Anyways, let's talk about these players.
All right. So anyway, we have Daniel Shaffert in the chat saying if he should trade DeAndre Hopkins and Njoku for either KW3 or ETN. If so, which would you prefer? Yeah, I mean, I would trade I would do that for either one.
Which one do you prefer? I mean, is it a PPR league?
Does it matter? ETN's not catching passes that much right now.
I mean, but he has that.
He should. He should eventually. He should eventually. KW3 is a guy who's just a player I like watching a lot more, but I think that ETN just has more of a runway to just these massive games and absolutely massive volume that we've seen. So I would prefer ETN over Kenny Walker right now.
I would prefer ETN because he's playing this weekend, right?
No, Jackson. I think Jacksonville's one of the teams.
Seattle's
on bye. Right? Jacksonville's on bye.
I mean, so they're both on bye. So I mean, you're kind of screwed. I see why they want to make this trade.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can afford to not play Hopkins this week, then I would do it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's talk about I think it's a great week for waivers. We saw, and the guys at the very top, they're going to be 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs at the very top. But let's talk about the wide receivers and the running backs. One of them is a guy who is on bye, Rachaad White. We've been talking about him like he's been on the top. He's been towards the top of the waiver wire cheat sheet for weeks. There have actually been times where Trashman's told me that I'm getting him up too high, and I just keep saying, and it's like I said on the Sirius show this weekend, Trashman. Whenever you just put 2 and 2 together about Rachaad White and all the commentary that we've heard about him and the general trends that we've seen, then you get to see in this last week he actually got a start. The offense just looks better. I hate to say it for Leonard Fournette. The offense looks better when Rachaad White is out there.
He's just waiting for the playoffs.
We've been saying it, Lenny. Yeah, we've been saying it since the beginning of the season. Wherever it was back in that second Thursday night game of the season when Collinsworth, whenever those guys were there on Thursday night, and all they were talking about, I forget if it was a Thursday night or a Sunday night game because I think it was Collinsworth, but I forget who it was. But somebody was there all week, and they were talking about how the staff through the course of the season they're going to get number 29, Rachaad White, more and more and more involved. And then there were the other drum beats, like we heard with Adam Schefter, whenever he was interviewed about who his fantasy sleepers were. Before the season even started, we know how plugged in he is with teams. He mentioned Rachaad White as a guy that was going to get more and more involved through the course of the season. And lo and behold, in this last game, this Germany game, we had Rachaad White. Let's see, I'm trying to get it pulled up. 64% of snaps, 22 touches, 105 total yards. Now, Leonard Fournette did get hurt in that game. He did have the 1 target, 15 touches and 58 yards. He had a touchdown, but only 30% of snaps. Rachaad White did start the game, and Rachaad White just looked really, really good. And now Tampa Bay goes on a bye. I guess what is it? An abdominal injury? Oh, it's a hip injury because he was wearing that weird thing around his hip. Leonard Fournette was to end that game. So they'll be on bye. They're acting like it's going to be a situation now coming out of the bye where Leonard Fournette's going to be okay, But even if so, he's you mentioned the playoffs. You mentioned playoff Lenny. I think for this critical fantasy stretch run, we're gonna see a lot of Rachaad White, and it's not just going to be peppered in. Yeah, I
agree. I just think Pacheco. I mean, do you think Pacheco might need to be over him for this week?
Well, no, I do I think that Rachaad White is the better pickup for rest of season. And that's kind of what we have to base this on the waiver wire cheat sheet. But yes, if you are playing this week, we have Isaiah Pacheco, who in this last game, Isaiah Pacheco played on 56% of snaps. He had 16 touches, 82 total yards. He's not getting used at all in the passing game, but Jesus, is he a slasher? It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire that's just complete. I mean, you can just.
Well, he was a healthy scratch.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
No, he because he was in there.
I don't think he got a touch.
I'm not sure he got a touch, but he was. I certainly saw him in there. He was down there at the goal line for one play. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, so he didn't get a touch, but he was not a healthy scratch. He was in on 6% of snaps. He's been completely relegated. I mean, he was basically a healthy scratch. So Clyde, at this point, if you've held on to him, just hoping that something might change. I don't think it's going to change. There's something there that they just don't like about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He can be dropped, and this has come down to a situation where it's going to be Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. If we can base anything off of this last week with the Kansas City Chiefs, and McKinnon's getting used in the passing game a bunch. Pacheco's not. It's kind of become sort of an easy thing. It's like, if it's a PPR league where you can get the value out of a guy like Jerick McKinnon playing 38% of snaps, getting 8 targets, that's the kind of deal where only 7 touches, but he did get you 58 yards. Pacheco did have the 16 touches, no targets, no receptions, 82 yards, looking good on a lot of them. He did have the fumble, which might have got you a little bit worried in game. Regardless, both of these players, if they're on your waiver wire, certainly need to be owned. This will be the last week that they're going to be in this waiver wire discussion. So if you want them, you got to go out and get them. If you had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if you had, there's a lot, like A.J. Dillon, a lot of these guys, if you have these, Melvin Gordon, if you have these players and you draft them, you're just kind of hoping for something to break and something to change. Like it isn't going to change. It's not going to happen for these guys. And for Isaiah Pacheco, it could happen, right? For Rachaad White, it could happen. We've seen evidence that it can happen. They've been pretty good options as it is, for the last couple of weeks. So even though we're not going to get the game out of Rachaad White this week, rest of season, he's the better pickup. It just makes all the sense in the world to me that while he's looking this good, was looking this fresh, well, he certainly has the trust of Tom Brady, right? Mm-hmm. They've kind of got something going again now. The NFC South is wide open. All these teams are bad. They want Lenny during the playoffs. Like, now's the perfect time to give Rachaad White his extended run, make sure everything's okay with Lenny's hip. It's the most important part of our fantasy season that just coincides with what makes total sense after they come off the bye, right? And we know that these rookies after the bye week always get their usage bumped, especially these guys that were taken on, day 1 or 2 of the draft. So Rachaad White, certainly for me, would be my priority unless I just need somebody this week. Isaiah Pacheco this week, Kansas City. I just made the matchup tool. So, all right. So yeah, Isaiah Pacheco this week has a beautiful matchup, the number 2 matchup on the RosterWatch matchup tool for opposing running backs in the Los Angeles Chargers. They are at the Los Angeles Chargers, but they are, it's 7-point favorite at the Chargers, number 2 matchup of the week, 50-point over-under. So, Trashman, I can kind of see the Pacheco. That you made a good point. If you need somebody for this week, you go after Isaiah Pacheco. If you have 4 wins or something like that, go after Pacheco. If you're a team with 6 wins or more, I would go after Rachaad White if those guys are available on your waiver wires. Those are the 2 that are sort of at the very top. Trashman. Some of these others I kind of messed with here as far as your ordering of them. You've been really high on trying to get Gus Edwards on your teams. I guess they'll be coming off bye. You just want to kind of talk about that. Do you worry at all that Kenyon Drake is sort of shown enough to where Gus will be relegated to his sort of Gus bus 12 touches for
Well, the thing is,
grinding between the tackles.
We were excited about Edwards coming back when it was going to be J.K. Dobbins sharing the backfield with him. And I don't think Drake's as good as Dobbins. So I still want Gus for this playoff run.
Do you think that?
Just based too on the fact that he's gonna get at least he's gonna get double-digit touches at least every game. Some of these other guys behind him, we're not certain of that every weekend.
Would you prioritize Jaylen Warren over Jerick McKinnon this week, given the fact that Najee Harris seemed to have a little bit of a coming back to life over the course of the weekend?
Probably not. I'd probably want McKinnon.
Okay, because we have those guys in the same tier as far as the way that they're lined up. You had Warren ahead of McKinnon, and so I kind of left it like that. I think it's fine because they're in the same tier. But just for clarification for our pro members who are using the cheat sheet, I kind of like the upside of McKinnon a little bit more right now, just with the way with Juju possibly. God, man, like, do you think Juju's going to be out for? He's going to be out for. We know it'll be 1 week. But do you think he could be more just based on the fact that think they could give him like the Tua treatment where he's out, where it's just a concussion that looks that bad? I mean, did you see the hit? Like that was one where like Andy Reid had to come out on the field and all the players like kneeled around him and stuff. And it was, he had to walk off the field. He walked off the field in his own, like under his own power, they said on the broadcast, but it wasn't like he was draped on the trainers. You know what I mean? Juju's had a concussion history. I don't know exactly. Let me see. Player Profiler has a good injury tracker. I'll pull it up. I want to say that over the course of the last few years, he's had either 2 of these things or 3 of these. I remember there was one from 2 years ago. Let's see. Where's this injury guy? Okay, so on Player Profiler, I'm here. So he had a concussion. Oh, okay. So it really hasn't been that bad. He had one in 2019 and he had one in 2017. Okay. So
every couple of years.
Yeah, it isn't as bad as I remember being. Actually, Juju, if you look at his injury history, it really hadn't been that bad.
No.
In 2021, it was the shoulder strain that swindled him, but other than that, he's been pretty durable. I still think he misses 2 games here. I still think he'll miss 2 games. And if you wanted that to kind of move into wide receiver, we can, because clearly there's another 2 wide receivers that we need to talk about here. One of them will be a clear beneficiary of that.
Well, I wanted to touch some running backs just on Kyren Williams really quickly.
Okay.
And running back. So it just seems like, I mean, he got some good usage, especially in the passing game. And I'm thinking with Cooper Kupp being out and them needing pass catchers, I think Kyren Williams is going to get a lot more run soon. And I mean, and he doesn't have a lot of talent in front of him with Akers and Henderson. So I feel like Kyren Williams, he's going to get some opportunities moving forward.
Okay. Hey, is it true that, one thing that we might have wanted to add on here was Keontae Ingram, just as a bottom of the barrel one. Because Eno Benjamin was waived by the Cardinals. So
I mean James Conner played like 80-something% of snaps. I feel like it was some inordinate amount.
Yeah, I know, but I just he's not included. I just wanted to throw his name out on the podcast for people in super deep leagues. I think it's nothing. It isn't one of these guys that basically we recommend the guys that we go up to like 10% on. I wouldn't go up to 10% of my free agent acquisition budget on him. I wouldn't use waiver priority on him, but he'll make it through waivers. And so if he's still there if he makes it through waivers, you can get him for free in free agency for some dirt ball off your bench.
I mean, he's good. James Conner insurance.
Yeah, I would go make that happen for sure. Anyway, let's move on to wide receiver. And again, if you guys have questions in the chat and you want to ask about guys who you can drop this week, I'm taking a list of them. I'm looking at some of the questions on Roster Watch, and I'll be taking questions from people who've asked us on Twitter about drops. And we'll go over those with Trashman once we get to the end of the show. But as far as the wide receivers, I mean, it starts and ends with Christian Watson, our guy from the Senior Bowl. Do you want to give your for people who just might not know about Christian Watson, I'll give, sort of what we were looking at as far as, his actual play for the Green Bay Packers this last week. And it was just an absolute monster. 8 targets for 4 receptions for 107.
It was bittersweet.
3 touchdowns and 84% of snaps. Why was it bittersweet?
Because it was against my Cowboys.
Okay. Yeah. And here's the other thing, Trash Man. He ended up getting a touchdown on this drive that I'm talking about anyway, but he was targeted on another deep ball. Do you remember that ball where he just didn't look up? He looked back at Rodgers. He
made some rookie mistakes for sure, but his talent was, obvious.
There were 4 times that they wanted to get him the football in situations where he was going to dash for the end zone. Yeah. So it's very, very, very telling. And like you and I talked about when we were on the Sirius show this last weekend, Alan Lazard he's a sub athlete. He was going to have trouble with a guy like Diggs. He was. This was the matchup that they looked to. Allen Lazard on 98% of snaps, only 4 targets. Christian Watson doubled up Allen Lazard and was the lead target getter for Aaron Rodgers. You develop some trust with Aaron Rodgers. You also are the guy who Aaron Rodgers said that he wanted, right? Yeah. We can't forget that on draft night.
6'5" with 4.4 wheels. I mean, and you saw like none of the backs could keep up with him.
Yeah, and they're not as tall as him. You know, it's
so that's what I'm saying. Like 6'5" and 4.4. I mean, it's a lethal combination.
And what about the arm length? It's just like, don't you remember the arm length from the Senior Bowl? I mean,
yeah, I mean, like we compared him to Mike Evans and Miles Boykin. Hopefully more Miles Evans than Mike Evans and Miles Boykin, but
yeah, for sure. And you know, he was. I'd like to go to like what did we say? Like I'm gonna look at our rookie profile of him. Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah.
So do you have the arm and the hand size?
Arms 32 and 3/4 inches.
Yeah, I mean 33 inches.
10-inch hands.
Yeah, and during the Senior Bowl, don't you remember on that rainy day where we were having to wear the ponchos and all this stuff like that? Christian Watson wasn't wearing a damn poncho. He wasn't doing anything. He was going up and like I don't worry about him in the weather in Green Bay or anything. He's going to be good. Romeo Doubs is going to be out. Christian Watson was always a better prospect than Romeo Doubs. That's why he got picked 2 rounds ahead of him. And as we mentioned, Green Bay was getting all this shit for taking Devontae Wyatt in the first round and not going after the wide receiver and all this stuff like that when they had all the opportunities to. And the guy that Aaron Rodgers wanted was Christian Watson. You know, when their time was up and when they picked him, I think they picked him in the 30s or 40s. You know, so you know he's got the pedigree. He's good. He's available in like 88% of leagues. If you have the number 1 priority, you can go get him. If you lost Cooper Kupp, if you've just been having to deal with some kind of Brandon Cooks, you know, if you've been having to deal with this stuff with any of these guys that have been really Drake London. I mean, I really good week last week.
Switch him out with Drake London. I mean, it's like
like this is the kind of guy, man. You want to pick him up, man. Pick him up for the home stretch. This is an important one. We talked about it last week with Jeff Wilson. Trashman starting Jeff Wilson over Deontay Foreman didn't turn out to be that bad a deal, did it?
Nah.
I told you on the radio show it wasn't too bad a deal. You said I was having a fever dream.
I mean, I still think Foreman's I don't know. He's a beast.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think Chuba's going to get more and more involved as we go on.
If Deontay Foreman had, the wide receivers that Miami does taking attention from him, he would be pretty good.
If you love Deontay so much, Trash Man, maybe we can work out a trade in our oldest league. I'd like to get rid of him and just quit having the headache between him and my guy Jeff Wilson. So maybe we can work on something there. Okay. So that's Christian Watson, right? I think we made it clear. Go get Christian Watson. I can't believe it, but I think that he's definitely ahead of Kadarius Toney, who's in a better system.
I think season long, yes. At
this point in time, better quarterback. I mean, not a better quarterback as far as just the annals of NFL history, but right now, a more proficient quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Mecole Hardman should probably be back. I mean, he sat out last week with ab soreness.
But then if Juju's out, that gets more targets for him potentially.
Well, certainly whenever there was no Juju, there was no Mecole Hardman in this last game. We just saw Kadarius Toney. His usage very predictably, spiked. And you and I talked about this on the SiriusXM show too. And we said it exactly what was going to happen. We said they're going to get down in the red zone. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire owner is going to get pumped up that he's going to get a touchdown here, and they're going to run Mecole Hardman, or they're going to run Toney right in front. They're going to fake a pop pass to him. He's going to run off to the side. They're going to just throw him the ball right there, wide ass open for a touchdown. It's exactly what happened. And that's what got him kickstarted in this game. In all, Kadarius Toney played 44% of snaps, 5 targets with 6 touches. So I think he caught all his targets and then got that extra carry out of the backfield for 90 total yards and 1 touchdown. we're going to see that thing continue to move up as Andy Reid sort of goes back and watches that film and says, this could be the piece of our offense that we really need to get back to full steam like we were before. You know, he's not Tyreek Hill, but he's 75% kind of a Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
It's why Urban Meyer wanted him and then tilted his face off whenever the Giants, after they had actually traded back, took Kadarius Toney, and Urban Meyer's like, stop, fuck it, just give me ETN.
You think that what set him off?
For the whole career and the whole season with the Jags. No, it's just, but like NFL guys all realize, man, the Kadarius Toney, he's a little bit of a, interesting character, man. He marches to the beat of his own drum, we'll say, but he's so fast. He's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. He earns targets like crazy. He's a guy that you could scheme wide ass open. He has the ability. He has the running and cutting ability to where if you put it on a chalkboard and it works on a chalkboard, Kadarius Toney can make it work on the actual grass, and not all players are capable of doing that. Mm-hmm. So do that in a Patrick Mahomes offense. Kadarius Toney, you're fine going 25. 30%. I mean, if you really need it badly, over 30. I mean, this is the type of week. I mean, how many more weeks on the waivers are we going to really have, Trash Man? It's like almost like you can move in on a Watson, a Toney, a Rachaad White, any of these guys. If you have not been able to, or you haven't been able to use your waiver order on guys in the past, we've told you to move pretty well. I mean, Kenny Walker was the one that we told you can make the all-in move on. We said to make a big move for Jeff Wilson. This isn't quite like this isn't like the Kenny Walker thing, because that's a running back, and that was going to be a staple in your lineup for the rest of the season that we knew because it was the talent, and we knew the opportunity because of no Rashad Penny. With Christian Watson, what do we know? Well, we know he automatically. I mean, he is their most athletic. I mean, his
their best receiver.
He has a 99.9 percentile spark score. He's like, if he's coming on and Aaron Rodgers likes throwing him the football and he targets him 8 times in this game versus the Cowboys, it's like this is going to continue, and he's the kind of guy that's capable of making plays. So it's the kind of thing where if Green Bay does make a run, and remember they play in the NFC North, where they're going to get to play they got the Lions and they got the Bears and they got the Vikings and stuff. These guys are all good matchups for opposing wide receivers. So you can make it like it's not a Kenny Walker move, but I think it's a stronger move than a Jeff Wilson move. These other guys I see sort of in that Jeff Wilson from last week. Yeah. We have Chris. We'll get to Shane Jacobs. Chris Genova saying, "Hey, how would you rank these guys for waiver wire targets? Pacheco, B-Rob, Watson, Campbell, Slayton." So I would go. Pacheco,
Watson.
I think Brian Robinson. It's like I tweeted last night, man. If you block 4 yards for Brian Robinson's gonna get you 4 yards.
Yeah,
it's just, I mean, he really just does not do anything to create on his own. If you need quarterback, if you're in quarterback purgatory, like I'd say maybe Watson after that. And then B-Rob, Campbell,
Watson is he talking about?
I thought he was talking about Deshaun Watson. Which one did you think he was talking about?
Could be Christian, right?
Oh, okay. So if you're talking about Christian,
I don't know who he's talking about. But
it depends on what you need. If you need severe running back help right now, I would take Pacheco and I would line him up this week versus the Chargers.
Yeah.
If you're not in desperate need of running back help, I'd take the stab on Christian Watson. And then after that, those guys, I mean, personally with Matt Ryan back, I think Paris Campbell is a great pickup. He's a great ad. We have him sort of in the second tier of available players. Darius Slayton just continues to get it done. He's boring though.
He's the number one receiver. I mean, because the thing is, Daniel Jones, he takes a shot every now and then. And it tends to be downfield, and that's not Wendell Robinson. That's Darius Slayton. Mean, when it's not Saquon Barkley, I mean, he's going to take a few shots, and they're probably going to go to Darius Slayton.
This guy, Shane Jacobus, is saying, hey, guys, Cup went down for me. Should I trade Kenny Walker for Olave and Devontae Smith?
I don't know what the rest of your team looks like.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the if you have the horses to stay afloat at running back, yeah, I'd rather have Olave and Devontae Smith in a vacuum. But it's going to matter what your roster construction is, right? Yeah. But yeah, in a vacuum, I like the side of Olave and Devontae Smith better than I like the side of Kenny Walker. Got 66 fab. I guess that's out of, let's say it's out of 200. And wondering where to spend my cash. I'm 5-5. I need a dog for the playoff push.
I mean, one of those four guys.
Yeah, one of those four. He's 5-5. I think I would go Christian Watson or Rachaad White, and then I would go
Pacheco.
One of the Chiefs, Pacheco or Kadarius. Shane Jacobus again is asking, is Watson worth a waiver wire one pick, like a waiver wire first priority? Yes. I'm praying that my wife, who's a Cooper Cup owner, has number one in her league so she can go get him tonight and I won't get yelled at for having wrecked her team.
Chris also as well, like Deshaun Watson too. If you need a quarterback for the playoff push, that's an option too.
Yeah. Jacobus is saying he has Connor, JT, and Foreman as his backs, and he has for his wide receivers are Cup, Judy, Gallup, and Tony. Okay,
yeah, I would do that.
Make the trade for Olave and Devontae Smith. I think you're going to be fine with those guys. But now see, for Shane Jacobus, what you need to do, don't think if you do that, quit thinking about going and picking up Christian Watson off waivers. Go pick up Isaiah Pacheco or Rachaad White off of waivers, or any of the other guys that are on the waiver wire cheat sheet underneath them. Like go. Don't, like, if you get Olave and you get Devontae Smith, like those are your two horses for the rest of the season until Cup comes back, right? Tony's going to get mixed in. Okay. Like, go after running back this week on the waiver run. Just, do you have any thoughts about Van Jefferson versus,
I think Jefferson's the most talented of that group.
But they just seem to. I mean, Ben Skowronek had 7 targets last week.
He did, but Jefferson had the better game. I mean, like, and it was his first game back, right?
No. It was his second. It was his second game.
2 games back. But he had the best game. I think Van Jefferson. I think he's the best. He's the most talented of that group.
I do too. Upside. But I think this Skowronek. I think if I were picking one of them up,
maybe in a full PPR, maybe Skowronek, maybe. That might be the move, but I don't see the upside with Skowronek, but
I kind of do because he's big. Yeah, I mean, don't you remember we saw him at the Senior Bowl and we thought he's no good, but I do think that they like him because they play him at fullback. They play him at all kinds of different spots. I think if the season goes downhill like we think it might, I think he's a guy that they'll want to get a developmental look at, like an evaluation look at. Mm. I think they find him interesting. You know what I mean? So it feels like that from the talk that you sort of hear from behind the scenes. And I like what you said earlier about Kyron Williams. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I like where you have him here on the cheat sheet, even though we were only looking at 27% of snaps last week. I mean, it didn't like Darrell Henderson did much on his 57% of snaps. Something's got to break. I mean, like there.
6 touches each for him and Cam Akers and Kyron Williams, I think was a lot. He was a lot more active in the passing game. And I think that's where they're going to need him.
Okay, this guy's Mo Diesel saying Allen Robinson or Christian Watson at half-point PPR. If you say Watson, I'll have to waste my number one waiver on him. Is it worth it? It's worth wasting your number one waiver. I don't think you need to drop Allen Robinson to get Christian Watson, though, right? But, I mean, what's
I think maybe he's thinking about picking up Allen Robinson.
Oh, okay. I would rather have Christian Watson for the rest of the season, even with this Cup stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, I mean, give me
the guy with 40-point upside.
And give me the guy, and give me the guy that's literally one of the most athletic wide receivers in the National Football League.
Yeah,
and the tallest, and the longest arms, and who Aaron Rodgers feels like he's trusting right now, with no competition. Can you believe that they cut Amari Rodgers today? What a pain! What a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, I think he'll turn up somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about which of these wide receivers you want to talk about? I'll keep collecting some of these names about possible drops, and we can get to the rest of it.
Donovan Peoples-Jones needs to be owned in PPR leagues.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's right there at the top of that second tier, right, Trash Man? I mean, he's like, he needs to be. All he does, like I said on the ratio, all he does in PPR is get you 12 points a week. It was even better this last week.
Yeah.
It's all because Amari Cooper's too scared to have a good game on the road.
Yeah, that's pretty uncanny how terrible he's been on the road.
Yeah, man. Any of these other guys you want to just touch on before we get to the tight ends? And I could berate you for not having for not having Trey McBride higher. I'd get him moved up.
I mean, Treylon Burks is worth adding in deeper leagues. Laviska Shenault, I like what he did in Carolina. I feel like maybe that genie's out of the bottle there. He's a prospect. He's a prospect you can add in deep leagues, and it's going to be available in almost every league right now. Then, I mean, those are the guys I'm the most excited about in that lower tier. Oh, and Julio Jones. I think Julio Jones is going to be a good add for this playoff run.
He had a little bit of juice, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of juice. All right. On the tight ends, we'll talk about. Let's see. We have a couple more questions here. No name picked yet. I called you guys a couple weeks ago. Former Sizzler CEO Kerry Cramp. I asked about Elijah Moore and has he found his way back on my roster? And he's found his way back on the roster. Jets going to use him from the slot. Thoughts? I don't know. Like, this whole thing with Elijah Moore, there are things that we can kind of read the tea leaves on, and there are things that just seem weird. And this whole Elijah Moore thing to me just seems too weird for me to be dipping my toes into for anything other than a speculative ad on such a sick player. That's fine, dude. It's fine. If that stuff comes to fruition, it's fine. We're certainly not forecasting it in our models. So, with Elijah Moore, this has been so weird. This is going to be one where we got to see it before we really, really buy in. Mo Diesel is saying he would only need Watson for 1 week. Well, no, that's not the point, Mo Diesel. That isn't how waivers work. You pick him up, and maybe you could need him for this week, and you could use him.
But then what are you going to be using him?
What if all of a sudden this becomes a situation where, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you remember that Odell Beckham Jr. didn't do shit until right about now in his rookie season. And then if you only need him for 1 week, or you just didn't play him for the rest of that whole 2014 season, no, you played him every week and you went to a championship. I'm not saying it's going to happen with Watson. It's been an off and on weird start, but that's not why you pick. You're not just picking him up off of waivers for a spot start. You're picking him up as a guy that, there's a much greater than zero opportunity that he can be a real difference maker for you.
He could be the next Devontae Adams.
Yeah. He says that Higbee, Stevens, Zicalella says Higbee's available in his league. He has Goddard heading to the IR, I believe. Yeah,
Adam. He led the team in targets with Cup out.
Yeah. So I would definitely be adding Tyler Higbee if he's available. He's certainly.
I think that's the biggest beneficiary of the Cup injury.
Yeah, well, hey, man, it certainly could be. Well, hey, speaking of tight ends, let's talk about them. At the very top, you had Cole Kmet up here. If Cole Kmet's available in your league, certainly go get him. But as I looked, he had already gotten up to 64% owned across at least Yahoo leagues. So he came off the list. But Cole Kmet's a great pickup, of course. Greg Dulcich had the down game this week. But, he did have, if you were watching the game, you saw that if there was one play that he could have had back, he would have added probably 6 and maybe more fantasy points onto his. It was like a 40-yard pass. And if he would have gotten it and done Greg Dulcich things, he could have gotten you a 15-point game with the touchdown there. With the reception there, he would have gotten you in PPR probably a 9-point game. So the usage is still there. The route participation is still there. Greg Dulcich is a guy who, if you're still in, tight end purgatory, go out and get him. He got you the back. He didn't get you a good week last week, but here's the thing. There's a bunch of I have
I
Mark
don't see
Andrews in a
how you
couple
have-
of leagues, and he's gotten me 3-pointers a couple times.
I just don't see how you have Foster Moreau this high. I that's the one thing I couldn't jab with.
Well, I mean, I got him up.
He finally did something for you in fantasy this past week, but he's been trash even with Waller out.
And Waller
up until this past week.
Do you think Waller's even going to come back this year?
I don't know.
As a in all my dynasty leagues that I have him in, I've just chalked it up to where it's like, man, I don't think he's coming back. It's always so weird. Like every week, it's like he doesn't practice. He didn't do. It isn't like they ever say he's getting closer. Yeah. You know. I don't know. I mean, I think Moreau needs to be owned. He was a good play this last week. It's just another thing where has he been producing for fantasy? No, I mean it hasn't been great, but the underlying numbers he's always popping in all of our models because of the underlying numbers. And a lot of times what are you gonna do at tight end? I mean, what are you gonna?
Some of these guys have more upside. I feel like likely if Andrews isn't ready,
but he's playing all the snaps. He's playing all the snaps,
and exactly, he's not doing anything with them.
But he is. He did last week.
Did last week, but I mean, he's been without Waller for weeks now.
I get it.
And I mean, you don't like the upside of like a K. Dot more than Moreau, or
not now that Cameron Brate's coming back into form. I think they should just bench Cameron Brate for K. Dot, but they're not going to. Yeah. And they're sure not going to run. I mean, they're sure not going to do a bunch of 2 and 3 tight end sets. I mean, they have. I mean, it's just they're not going to do it. And if they do, what's he going to be? The fourth or fifth option in the passing game, depending on which running back's in there. No, both of those, Rachaad White and Leonard Fournette, are both going to be ahead of him in the pecking order as far as progressions, I would think.
I just hate Foster Moreau. That's what it comes down to.
All right, that's fine. Quarterback, go pick up Deshaun Watson if he's available. Thank us later. All right. Anything else, Trash, maybe before I ask you about these drops?
No, at quarterback position, there's nobody else. Well, I mean, I guess there's somebody who I just remember, Colt McCoy, I guess who could potentially be somebody you could add this week.
Let's wait to see what the deal is with Kyler. I mean, he was a game time decision last week, right?
Yeah. I mean, the team almost looked a little bit better with McCoy. I think they like his leadership.
He always gets hurt. He got hurt again in this one. He came back in. I was like, damn, man. The Aggies always called Colt Cart, if you remember back in the day.
Yeah, of course I do.
Look at this guy. There's a better chance of the robot genius choosing Siciliano over Hans than Foster Moreau being a tight end. Dude, the robot genius thinks Siciliano is so tiny and puny.
Puny?
Yeah, he's shrimpy and squirmy, dude. No, our guy, no name picked yet, man. Former Sizzler CEO Kerry Cramp. All right, man. All right, here we go. Can you drop them? A shorter list than usual this week. The chat, I guess they know who to drop. Latavius Murray.
No.
You wouldn't drop him for Rachaad White or for?
I mean, you could drop him for Rachaad White or Pacheco.
Yes,
but I don't think he's useless. I think
he's useless. Drop him. Drop him. If you drop him and he goes off, you can blame me and not Trash, man. Okay.
Would you
do Connor for Debo? What side of that would you prefer, Trash man? I think I prefer Debo Samuel over James Conner. Okay. Melvin Gordon.
Yes.
So you're okay dropping Melvin Gordon. You're not okay dropping Latavius.
I feel like
Melvin Gordon played 60% of the snaps.
Latavius was better.
Well, I mean, he didn't look any better to me. I mean, I hate Latavius, but I don't think my bias is coming through that bad. I had to watch some of this crappy game. Melvin Gordon went for 70 yards on 54% of snaps. Latavius went for 47 yards on 31% of snaps. Come on, Trash man. I say you could drop Latavius, but I don't think you can drop Melvin just yet. just yet. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if he gets maybe used more in the passing game because Jerry Jeudy's going to miss time.
Hold on.
With that ankle. What?
That didn't seem.
I'm looking at it right now. I mean, unless the snap counts tool is wrong, Latavius Murray played 31% of snaps, 3 targets, 12 touches, 47 total yards, no touchdowns. Melvin Gordon, 6 targets, 11 touches, 70 total yards, and 54% of snaps.
I mean, Murray out-touched him.
11-12? Who cares? Melvin got twice as many targets, and he played almost double the amount of snaps. And Melvin Gordon's just a better all-around player. Melvin Gordon's a former first-round pick.
You just always hated Latavius Murray.
Well, that's true. For good reason. He stinks. We keep getting this one. A.J. Dillon.
I think you can drop A.J. Dillon.
I'm hesitant to drop A.J. Dillon.
Why?
I think you can if you need to.
Going up against Tennessee this week is a terrible matchup.
Yeah. I think I would drop him if there was no other option I had.
I mean, you got Tennessee and Philadelphia after that. I mean, a week 14 bye. Like
former Sizzler CEO Kerry Cram is asking if DeAndre Swift is a hole for the playoffs, or should I trade him for someone like Rachaad White? Oh no. No, don't trade away DeAndre Swift. If you're making a playoff push, no, don't do that for Rachaad White. I mean, he's still DeAndre Swift.
I mean, I guess somebody already owns Rachaad White in your league.
Yeah, I guess so. Dude, that's trash, man. It's an absurd idea to trade away DeAndre Swift for Rachaad White. You could get Rachaad White plus, You can get Rachaad White plus a good White. You might be able to get like Rachaad White plus.
I would not make that offer. I would not make that offer. I mean,
like
they're going to expect something much less unless they're really shrewd.
What about this is an interesting one because a lot of people had a lot of hope for this thing, but Nyheim Hines only got 8%. Like, can you drop Nyheim Hines?
Yes, I don't like any Bills running backs, to be honest.
Okay, 2 more. Somebody is asking now if they can drop the guy that always pops in the models. And, I mean, he had 10 targets. Somebody's asking if they can drop a guy that had 10 targets on 94% of snaps last week, but it's Zay Jones.
I mean, Zay Jones has had that kind of snap count all season. You can drop Zay and you can add Zay. I mean, I think I'm pretty ambivalent about Zay Jones. I would
drop Zay for Kadarius Toney. I would drop Zay for Christian Watson.
Christian Watson, yeah. I mean, I would maybe even drop him for Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, because I think they kind of profile similarly, but Jones is getting more out of it.
And finally, Trash Man, the tough one, toughest one I've been asked. Can one of our loyal users who depend on our advice, can they drop James Robinson?
No.